take up all the time like I've done in the past. But obviously, thank you to everybody that's out here. Obviously, this greatest conference in the country, and it has to do with you guys as well and how you cover us. And so everything that you guys do, I know that I appreciate as well as all the coaches that have come up here. To our commissioner, Tony Petiti, and his entire team, thank you guys for all that you have done and continue to do in this ever-changing and growing landscape. I know that not always the things that everybody has signed up for, but we know darn well if it's going to be done, it's got to be done the right way and by the Big Ten, because we are the forefront of everything that we're doing. And then I just want to give a little shout to we have some new leadership within our university, and I think it's been really critical in the growth of the things that we are continuing to do as a football program, but as an athletic department as well. And our new interim chancellor, Dr. Eric Wilcox, and his guidance and leadership as he first week onto the job, we had a new AD search, and so he had to kind of step in and be a leader in that frame and actually listen to all the people within the athletic department and the coaches, and so he did a phenomenal job in what it is that he's done. I've enjoyed getting to know him a little bit. And to our new AD, Sean Eichhorst is probably in his first month on the job back here at Wisconsin, and happy and excited to build our relationship and move this thing forward with him as well. So obviously for what we're here for, like the last 2 years for us have not been up to the standard, and I'm not shying away from that. And I think it's a little bit later in the day, and I've already talked about it several times about the standard of what we have to uphold and where we have to grow as a football program, and it hasn't been there. And that's not just in the wins and losses. That's in a lot of other things as well. And the way we play the game, the physicality, the toughness that we've got to do a hell of a lot better job at doing. And I can promise you that that we will. And things are obviously moving in that direction. Old coach of mine that I coached for, Coach Meyer, used to say, "Don't sleep on the game." And I always envisioned that he meant don't sleep on the game meant don't sleep on the schemes that are developing within the game, because if one day you wake up and the game will pass you by. And the truth of the matter is, as I've realized more and more, that wasn't just in the schemes of the game. That was in all of the game. And what has kind of evolved over the last 3 or 4 years, recognizing the evolution of this game is really critical to what we're doing. And for us, the last 8-9 months, we've taken a deep dive at all things that we've done within our program. From the way we train, we've had some critical injuries that have cost us some issues. So we've taken a real hard look at the way we've trained, to the way we've practiced, all through spring ball, how we'll practice in fall camp, how we'll practice as we get into the season. All things that I think we have to recognize as a football staff and program that we've got to continue to evolve. We know how to develop and put together a team that can be tough, nasty, and disciplined and win in this league. We also have to be aware of some of the evolutions of the things that have continued to happen. And I can tell you this, we're going in a different direction. And there's a lot of things that have changed even within the last year in our program. I think some of you that are around will recognize we opened up a new facility starting Monday, that the Kellner Family Athletic Center, which is a new indoor football facility that we will open up starting next week, to obviously a different investment in our university, to the team, and most importantly to the leadership of our program. That's where the greatest changes have happened. And a lot of you probably have not recognized this. Over the last 9 months, there's been a hell of a lot of changes. And to the naked eye and to the fan, I don't know that you could see them all. But to the people from within the program, meaning the players, the coaches, the people that are really close to this team, have seen and felt a difference throughout this entire program. And I'm standing here today in a lot different place than I was in the last 3 years. And I really do mean that. Now, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not saying that we're someplace far off from where we have been, but what we are much different in is our leadership. And about 9 months ago, midway through a season, there were some things that started to happen, and we could have gone one direction or the other, and we were in a really tough situation. But there was some youth within our program that really started to grow and took over in a way that was really, really healthy for us. And we had a group of veteran leaders that kind of understood what was happening and saw it and embraced that as well. and has really over the last 9 months put us in a position that is far, far different than we ever have been since I've been here. And I can honestly tell you that. We've got 3 guys here today to represent us that are a part of that veteran group that has been tied with some of the youth of our team and our program that have done a phenomenal job as well. Representing the offensive side of the ball is wide receiver Chris Brooks from St. Louis, Missouri. He'll be a returning wide receiver for us, and Chris is going into his 5th year as a Wisconsin Badger. On the defensive side of the ball, we got outside linebacker Sebastian Cheeks. He's a starting outside linebacker for us from right outside here in Chicago in Evanston, Illinois. And then we've got Matt Young, who is a returning starting safety for us from Neenah, Wisconsin, which is actually a home of where we just had a pretty severe tornado back in his hometown. And so just want to make sure everybody back there understands and knows that our thoughts and prayers are with them. It was a pretty, yesterday was a pretty devastating day up around his hometown. So just keep them in your thoughts. But these guys, coupled with some youth of this program and this team, have really changed the trajectory. I'm being honest with you, and have laid some roots within our program that puts us in a much different place right now. The problem with today, and I tell our guys all the time, the biggest issue we have today is it's too damn easy to just pick up and leave when things don't go well and things don't go right. And we all have too many people in our ears that tell us that you deserve more and maybe you should do something different. When I remind our guys, and the truth, the reality is we don't deserve anything more than the guy that's to the left of us, to the right of us. What we deserve is an opportunity to continue to grind things out if we have the courage to do it, to get better and to make people proud, okay, that are all around us. And that's what I'm telling you, that the 3 guys that we brought here today, coupled with the youth of the team that we have right now, that have put us in a hell of a lot different spot today. And it's why I'm so excited. I know they are so excited to start fall camp 8 days from today and to kick off on September 6th in Lambeau Field against Notre Dame. And we can't get here fast enough, and I'm excited about that. So open it up for any questions.
All right, questions for Coach Fickell. We have one on your left side here, Coach, 4th row.
Hey, Luke. Nick Olson, Badger 247 Sports. You talked about Sebastian Cheeks, coming in as a potential inside, obviously outside the last couple seasons. Just how has he embodied what you look for in a program, and how has he set up well for a great impact off the edge this year?
No, Sebastian has grown incredibly. I think that he's a great example of some of the things that we've done within our program. I know it doesn't show to everybody, but when these guys continue to return, understanding, where they have grown and what they have been able to do, they recognize the efforts that have been put in to make them who they are. And we're looking for a big year out of Sebastian. I mean, he is in a position for us that has to be a disruptor. He's a guy that has to create havoc for us defensively. We've been pretty darn good, especially late in the year, last year defensively, and Sebastian had a big part of that, but he's got to have a greater part of that going into this fall here soon.
Coach, on the right side, standing on the platform.
Hey, Coach, Carl Winter from WKOW in Madison. One of the criticisms of your first 3 years of your tenure from the outside has been essentially that there wasn't enough Wisconsin, whether that was in the recruiting classes or having alumni come back to visit. It seems like some of those things you've changed. Has that been a priority for you going into this season?
It's always been a priority. I think we've done a hell of a lot better job. That's the truth. I mean, we've hired a guy in Brady Ewing that has kind of helped us link a lot better with the former players who always want to be informed. And we've done a better job within the state of building relationships. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's a great year in the state. But the vision, the understanding, the seeing of what's happening within, I think those guys are a great example. I think there's 9 guys from the state next year that have been around us for the last year and a half and have seen a growth that I don't know that everybody outside here has seen. It's hard to the naked eye to see the roots of the things that have grown within our program. But those guys are a great example of, relationships still matter, and about how you do things from within that is not always seen on Saturdays, but I promise you it will be.
On your left side, Coach, in the back row.
Right here, Coach. Good afternoon. Jacob Worthing, KRUI. How close is Wisconsin to fully becoming the program you envisioned when you accepted the job?
I think we're a hell of a lot closer than we have been. And I think the one thing that's always unique about the last 3 years is every team has gotten a hell of a lot better. And I think that's, if there's one thing I could say about this league over the last 3 years, is even where the top of the league was 3 years ago to where the top of the league is now, and everybody in between, they've increased who they are and how they've done things. So to say exactly where you are, I know this. There's a different vibe within our program, and I think it has so much to do with leadership. How good are we? Where will we be? We've got a lot of new faces that have come in here, but the great thing is they've come in to be a part of us. And that's where I would say we're a hell of a lot closer to what I envisioned and what a lot of people envisioned the University of Wisconsin football program and team would look like, because it's about toughness, it's about leadership, it's about making people become us, whether they're from here or they're coming into here. And because of that combination of the youth, the leadership, and some of the veterans, their willingness to sustain and push through this journey, we're just in a much different place than we have been over the last 3 years.
On the far right side, coach in the back.
Luke, Lance Allen from CBS 58 Milwaukee. That photo came out last week where you were water skiing with the guys, and I can tell the joy and the sense of excitement in your voice. What does it mean not only for the current players to believe in your leadership and what's going forward, but I've talked to some of the alums and recent grads lately, and they believe in your leadership and they believe in what kind of the future holds. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. Let's be honest. Like we say that we live under a rock, and we say that sometimes we're not human, but all those things matter. And I'll be honest, our guys feel those things as well. They see, they feel, they hear. And so that's a growth. That's why we've talked about some of the changes that we've had to make about how we go about the season. And we've taken a deep, hard look at how we train. And that's always been a staple to who we are and how we've done things. And we've had to adjust a little bit, and how we practice, and the intensity which we practice with. And so some of those changes of saying, okay, we have to continue to evolve because we recognize, what it takes. And so to see those people, feel those people, start to see the vision and feel the vision, we know it ultimately comes down to how you perform and how you play on Saturdays, but all that matters. And I mean that from the people that have come back and been around the program and seen and felt a different nature. And I mean that from the leadership, from the brotherhood, that it's in a much different place.
Our final question, Coach, on the left side here, fourth row.
Hi, Oliver Vandervoort with Husker Corner and Slap the Sign. There's been a lot of talk with the college football playoffs about the Big Ten not scheduling so many Power 4 opponents. I'm just wondering if you could name some pluses and minuses of starting off with Notre Dame, and if that's something you want to keep doing in future years.
I tell you what, it's a great opportunity for us as a football program. I think it's for us in general. We know darn well where we've been the last couple of years, and to have the focus of what it is going to be in Week 1 on September 6th, not only that it's in Lambeau Field, I think it's helped me as a coach recognize some of the things that we have to continue to evolve to be able to do. I've always been one of those guys that, we all know this, November is where it's won, and you got to play your best ball at the end of the year. But there's a piece to this understanding, you got to come out of the gates and you got to be able to play really, really well and at a high level, especially when you're going to play games like this to kick the season off. It's been one of those things that's been talked about and said that we're supposed to do. We know that schedules are created so far in advance. I'm not telling you that this was one of those things that I said, hey, this is what we should do, but it's in front of us. And it gives us a great opportunity to say, hey, there's an incredible focus as we roll into camp because we know what's going to start in the kickoff of September 6th. Whether everybody else believes that, whether everybody else sees that, I think that's where the difference in what our commissioner has to do with all the different things he's got to be with 18 different teams. I don't know that we're all on the same page and believe that, but I know this is where we are, and that's what matters to us.
Coach Fickell, thank you so much for your time.